So
Yeah, if anyone's watched all the episodes, put it in the comments because you're crazy.
Yeah.
This is a journey into sound.
Hello, my name's Duncan and this is Alan, and welcome to another podcasty thing. And it's our anniversary. It's been a year since we started this thing, whatever it is, and we are still here and we're still doing it. So, hurrah to us!
Somehow.
Hurrah! I should have brought a party hat or something. So yeah, happy New Year to everybody. Even though we're just creeped into February, haven't we? And I hope you all had a good Christmas and good January, and all my US friends just keep pressing those tension sheets at the moment. So I think we will probably start where we normally start, which is obviously the beginning, and just have a general roundup of what we've been reading. So I don't know if you want to start out. Huh?
Yeah. So I had quite a thick book to start the year. I read Bone Hunters, one of these giant Malazan books I've been reading. This one's about just over 1,200 pages. So that took most of my January. I read two more books, but one of them was a short story or a novella, I suppose. The first book I read was King Rat, which is the James Clavell novel that was turned into a famous movie in the 60s. Yeah, really interesting, kind of semi-autobiographical, biographical rather. And yeah, it's part of the Asian sagas, so it's like the fourth book in timeline order, but it was one of the first books written, so it depends how you want to which kind of reading order you want to do those in, really. And because I didn't have much time, I read a Conan story from the Robbie E. Howard Complete Chronicles of Conan. So that's Black Colossus, which was really, really good. Actually, my favourite Conan I've read so far. Really, really enjoyed that one. But that was, just read it in an afternoon. So that's wiped me out for January. Start February fresh. How about you, man?
I finished off the dossier of Solar Ponds, which is Basil Copper's take on August Derleth's character, which was a rip-off of Sherlock Holmes, which I really enjoyed. And I'm actually going to read some more of that, I think, because it's like a more relatable Holmes, really, in some ways.
Not the most relatable character.
No. Then I read Unicorn Variations, which is Roger Zelazny's book of short stories, which I've read many times, which is just a stunning book, and it's Roger Zelazny, and yeah, on that. Read Andromeda Breakthrough, I finished, which I did a big talk with Gavin from Genre Books with, which we sort of rambled on about it. And if you watch the video, it sounds like we don't like the book, but we do like the book. At the end, we were saying, we do actually like the book. We do like the book, honest. It's just that we've really picked it apart. Then I have been reading The Warriors, which I finished. So I'll show you up there. Everything on the screen there. I can't even see one. Which is Shoal Uric, which I didn't even realise until this month was actually a book of the film. And I'm in the middle of putting a video together for Filmtastic February. And spoiler alert, it's a stunning book. It's really, really good. It's put it one way, I will probably struggle to find anything that's going to be better than that this year, I reckon. Then I did a bunch of short stories that I've been picking off from different places. Some James Tiptree, and which I've done a bit of a talk on, and many other ones, and some Stephen Donaldson, and lots of just random short stories I'm getting into at the moment. And that was basically my reading for the month, which actually wasn't too bad a month considering I didn't do very well last year. And yeah, that's it.
Do you say Warriors? Was that like a novelization? Was it, or is that?
No. That's the original book.
So the movie span off of the book.
This was written. This is written in 1962. So the film is 79. The film is 79.
Yeah.
And the gang in it are called the Coney Island Dominators. And bits of it are quite 60s. You can tell it's like the gang are dressed they're wearing paisley shirts and things like this, which is quite funny. It's a real good description of it. But it's based on I'm trying to think what's it. The famous Greek myth. Tell me at the beginning of this. So I can't remember. Yeah, Anabasis, which is a famous like Greek story about mercenaries going to war, and that's what he's loosely based it on, very very loosely. And but there's bits of it it's really quite intriguing because if you see the director's cut of it, there's two cuts out of it. The director's and the theatrical. The theatrical is quite hard to get hold of. Director's cut has suddenly got all these comic strips in between bits, which he put in, and I hated that when I originally saw it, which is why I've always gone back to the original. I've got a copy of the theatrical cut, but
I don't think I've seen this director's cut.
Yeah, that's the only one you could be able to get hold of for years, but I think they've still been broadcasting the theatrical one. But you read the book, and there's somebody in it reading a comic book of the Anabasis at the time. So in some ways, the way that Walter Hill put that in doesn't make a bit of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite different. It's a lot more realistic. It's quite brutal. His writing style is good. He used to be a social worker. The guy, Sol Urich is his name. He used to be a social worker and used to work with lots of young people at that. But his theory was that social work and all these youth groups and that are there just to keep poor people down. So there's lots of that sort of attitude from the gangs in that. But it's really, really good. And I said, I didn't know it existed until not long ago. I assumed that it was an original script idea from Walter Hill, which is really bad of me.
Yeah, as soon as you said it was originally released in the 60s, it just made me think of Quadrophenia. I don't know why.
Yeah.
As soon as I thought of like unruly youths in the 60s.
It was done as a sort of like reaction to, the sort of glorification that is like West Side Story, sort of makes it all look really cool and stuff. But what's interesting, which I can't remember the date of it, I've got Harlan Ellison, Web of the City, which is also known as Rumble, which is about... which was actually Harlan Ellison's first novel. He wrote many novels. And that came out sort of similar time, I think, and that's quite done because Sol Urich, basically, he observed gangs in New York. He literally sat in a van watching them to try and get how they acted and trying to get some realism to it. Harlan Ellison did something very similar. He actually
joined the gang, didn't he?
Joined the gang, basically.
Yeah, I know about this. Yeah.
So there's quite a few parallels going on there between these two books. Yeah. I've not read Web of the City for quite a while, which I was hoping to get to it, but I've just had too much reading on. But there's quite a few parallels to that. But it is a really, really good book. And I don't think enough people know about it. They assume that the film, if you watch the film is a bit more cartoonish in sort of way it is. But the film, I love the film. The film is sort of up there as far as I'm concerned. It always has been.
Yeah, it's great. Excellent.
But it does, in some ways, the book was like a reaction of sort of the glorification of the gangs. And in some ways, the film does that to a degree.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll probably spoil part of my video for the week, but there you go. But yeah, it's well worth reading. And I said, I think I'm going to struggle this year to find something that good. And I said, it's January.
Yeah, I have to add it to the list because I'm going to be honest, I didn't realise. I'm exactly the same. I assumed that he wrote an original screenplay for it. So
yeah,
that's really interested me now.
But yeah, it's not very long. It's only so this edition is 212 pages, so it's not very long.
No.
So but actually, let's think about what I was watching. Sort of a bit of a byline was I was watching one of Murphy Napier's videos, like a roundup of the year. And I sort of watched bits of it. I always find she's very, way she talks now, it's really quite good to watch. But she was going on about books and about the length of books, and she was like discounting books below 200 pages, saying that they were like short stories and novellas. And I'm thinking, well, that means that most of what I read is sort of novellas.
That's
most of the science fiction books of the 70s are novellas. And it's really this weird thing about, I think it's a modern attitude that everything's got to be a trilogy and everything's got to be 1,000 pages or something to be, especially in sort of the fantasy reading worlds.
That's the thing that skewed it, is modern books are longer. They have gotten longer, maybe 60 pages on average longer than they were. And on top of that, some of the genres that are really, really popular at the moment, like epic sci-fi, epic fantasy, they are epic. They're massive, 1,000-page books, and it's skewed everyone's perception, because if you look it up, kind of like, and give it context, pretty much everything over 100 pages is a novel, and everything between 50 and 100 pages is a novella, and anything under 50 pages is pretty much a short story. It's all going to word count, but those are pretty accurate kind of structure to those. It's strange when you've got books out there like The Heart of Darkness or something like that, was like 120 pages or something, and people are calling it like a novella or something. It's not technically a novella because it's quite a bit more than 40,000 words, but it's what it is.
But it's sort of and I think a lot of modern books, they could do with good editors. There seems to be a lack of good editors.
One of the things that I am marking books down for the most in my reviews currently is they just need editing. That's very, very common. Like, I'm like, oh wow, I would have loved to give this 4 stars or 5 stars, but unfortunately no editor seems to have touched this book. So therefore it's, I think, I'm not saying it's wasting the reader's time, but it can spoil the impact of the text sometimes, I think.
I've said you've always had this problem to a degree, but I think it's more of a modern problem, that the fact that you're getting a lot of books through self-publishing, and especially some bigger books, and even non-publishing stuff, and people are scared to actually cut the books down. I've heard complaints about the new Brandon Sanderson one that is just too long.
I mean, it's the new one is a Cosmere novel, and I read The Way of Kings, the first of those Stormlight Archives books last year, and that one doesn't really get pulled up for lack of editing very often. But I'm telling you now, it's 300 pages too long. There's parts of that book that literally do not need to be there. I understand that the author wants to give a lot of like world building, like additional to the main characters and the main areas of the world, but that stuff can be put in. Look at what Tolkien did. He had he had like 10,000 pages of unused material, and it's unused material for a reason. Someone needs to get hold of these guys and put this stuff in, like release like a history book, a lore book, a novella with this stuff wrapped up into it. It doesn't need to be in your mainline novels. It doesn't need to be there. It's damaging the quality of the books, definitely. But
I think that's part of the reason why I do read some modern books, but I don't read as much as probably a lot of people. And some of it is just because of editing. It's quite interesting. If you read Andy Weir's The Martian, that is a really tightly edited book, because he could have gone rambling on for days about fixing things in there, but that is quite a tightly edited book, and I don't know whether it's Andy Weir's writing or they just had a damn good editor on it. But out of sort of modern books, I really, really like that because of the way it's edited. But I said,
I think sometimes it works. Sometimes authors will get away with it. There have been many famous occasions, whether it's like Les Mis or War and Peace, where an author can go off on a massive tangent, but it's still really, really worthwhile because they've got something really important to say, and the writing quality doesn't dip. But it's not the rule for sure.
But the problem is, I said, I don't know whether it's something to do with the way publishing's changed over the past 20 years, or there's less sort of. But it's even the stuff coming from major publishing houses. But then I think the thing with like Brandon Sanderson is maybe his publishers are scared to edit him. Because
I think exactly. Stephen King's the same. People have often said that about Stephen King novels. Cut 100 pages out that doesn't need to be there or something. But I think if you're making the money Stephen King or Brandon Sanderson make, you've just the publisher's just got to leave them to it now. I think at this point,
I've got both versions of The Stand. I've got the one he extended, and I've got the original one, and I'd always go back to the original one because I just think the modern one is just the one he extended with has got the extra pages are just pointless. And they're not pointless, but they add bits to it, but they just don't really add to the pacing of the book.
Yeah, that's it. They're not of a lower quality to what's in the book, but like you say, it does affect the pacing, definitely.
Yeah.
The issue I have with the original is I have no memories of the 70s, but I have lots of memories of 1990s. So the fact that he
Yeah, that was a good
recontextualized the
idea, actually.
entire book and changed all the references to match 1990 helps me massively because I remember those references. I wouldn't have got any of the stuff from the 70s. I wouldn't have got any of the references. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I always forget that we changed all the references because, which made it quite relevant. But anyway, we can only round on. Have you done much watching this since Christmas?
I noticed on your list. I actually watched this before Christmas. I noticed on your list you had Alien Romulus, and I actually went to see that in December, just before they pulled it from the cinema around here. I went to see it in one of the final showings to make sure, because it's a franchise I love, and I don't know why I always say this is a franchise I love, because what I really love is Alien, and what I've done is I've enjoyed to varying degrees everything that's come after it.
Yeah.
But what I will say is there's never been a movie in this franchise other than Aliens vs Predator. Sorry, but that movie is complete trash. But the Alien only movies, there's never been a movie that I thought, I wish I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, I saw it hit Disney Plus a couple of weeks back, and we sat down and watched it, and I enjoyed it, but it didn't add anything new to it, and they missed it. They really missed a trick, and that was my feeling about it. See, it looks good. There's a big sort of boss monster at the end, which I wasn't overly keen on.
No,
but it aped in some ways the original one. It was trying to get the feeling back, and I can see why people really, really liked it. If you've not,
I don't. I'm sorry. I've got a lot of feelings about this movie.
Yeah, if you've not experienced the first film in the cinema when it came out, I could see why people, because a lot of the feeling was very similar, but there was. See, that's what I liked about, I'm one of the people that like Prometheus. I liked it because it was trying to do something different.
Yes.
And
Prometheus, absolutely. It's not even close. Prometheus is such a better movie than Alien Romulus. It's not even a comparison for me personally.
Yeah, and I'll watch Alien Romulus again, but it will not be the top of my rewatching of Alien films. Like, I've come to like Alien Covenant a lot more the more I've watched it.
Alien Covenant is a better movie than Alien Romulus.
I must admit, when I first watched Alien Covenant, I was disappointed. But the more I've watched it, the more nuance I've seen in it.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his name? The guy who plays Daniel in it.
Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender is just stunning in it.
Unbelievable. Such a good actor, isn't he?
Yeah.
So good.
And that's, in some ways, with Romulus, that's where they missed a thing. When they, slight spoiler, if you don't want to know it, you don't want to know it. They bring back a android of Ash.
Yeah.
Which I thought wasn't badly done. And they said they'd redone it for the this release compared to what it would look like in the cinema. But if they did, they didn't do a brilliant job of it. They should have had Michael Fassbender back as Daniel. That would have made more sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what the issue is? That this movie exists only as a piece of fan service. It doesn't exist as a piece of original cinema, and that's the issue. These companies need to get off of this. Let's spin up what is effectively a marketing exercise. This movie is a marketing exercise, and it's not a bad movie, and it is entertaining. If you watch this movie, you're not going to be like, I wish I hadn't seen that. It is bang out. It's a 5 out of 10 bang average movie. There's some good suspense and some good action. It looks good, but it's just a marketing exercise. It doesn't act, like you say, it adds nothing to to the franchise at all, and it just is just there to play with people's nostalgia. That's all it really does. It tries to be, oh look, it tries to prey on the people that love Alien, and then kind of give you Aliens as well. And unfortunately, the more it went down that path of like, all right, we've kind of worn out all of our Alien references, we're gonna start hitting some of those Aliens references. And even shot for shot, they tried to use some of the same techniques and stuff that Cameron used, and it just feels so cheap. It's like Covenant. Here's the issue. I watched Covenant, and I wish it was as good as Prometheus. But what I liked about Covenant, it was different. Even to Prometheus, it was just different. For me, it felt like they've finally made a movie of those Dark Horse comics they did of Aliens. It was very, very bleak. It was very dark. It was very Geiger. It was It was a very menacing movie. It was quite like Alien 3. It was very, you know, it felt kind of separate almost to the feel and the vibe of those.
And it has some really interesting
originals.
subtext in it, whereas this one didn't feel like it had anything behind it at all.
That's it. It doesn't. It hasn't got any kind of artistic merit. That's the issue. It's like the director and the producers. It's almost soulless in a way, because they're not trying to achieve anything with this piece of cinema. That's the issue. There's nothing technically wrong with the movie. It's just like you say. There's nothing behind it. It's
because I know there's a TV series Alien. Is it called Alien Earth? Which I'm intrigued by. Which is going to be they bring a TV series. I think it's called Alien Earth, which is basically the xenomorph, I assume, lands on Earth. That's all I know. Which could either be excellent or it could be terrible.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have very little faith in them to use the property correctly. Because remember, this has got to go past the same kind of decision-making people that have handled Star Wars, and it's gonna.
Saying that, I watched, which I forgot to put on my list, watched Skeleton Crew.
I haven't.
I really enjoyed it. I'm not the target market. It's aimed at, the 9-10-year-old boys and girls and stuff like this. But it was done well. It was done really well. Jude Law's excellent in it. And there's some really nice bits in it. There's bits that got annoying, but then I said it wasn't. I have to think about it. It wasn't aimed at me. And if that was if I had a child, and that was their first experience of Star Wars, I think they would be very happy because of what it was. There's some really weird things going on with the plot, which I was trying to work out. That makes no sense whatsoever, but I just let it go. But it was well done. It was well done. And it was fun, and it tried to do something a little bit different, and it sort of expanded the universe a bit. And yeah, it's not a masterpiece, but it was well done. And I think, considering how they've sort of wrapped up stuff, like Ahsoka was okay, but they tried to take stuff from Heir to the Empire and books like that, and didn't sort of quite do it fine. And also, I wasn't actually keen on the way the main character was played either in that. And there was bits about it I liked and there was bits not. But Skeleton Crew, it's fun, and if anybody gets a chance to watch it, you just got to go into it thinking it's aimed at sort of children between sort of 8 and 12, really, probably. But that's what I think Star Wars should be doing more of, really. Because
I think at this point, that's probably the only thing that's still landing, really, isn't it? It's like
because I'm sorry, it is a children's franchise. Let's be honest, I'm still obsessed with a franchise a film that I saw when I was 9-10 years old.
Yeah,
and George Lucas hit the right tone then, and I think this one hit the right tone for what it was aiming for now. And as much as it's nice to have The Mandalorian, it's more of an adulty version and works really well. They should not be pandering to my likes.
No, exactly.
Me as a 50-something-year-old man, they should not be pandering to me. They should be aiming it at 10-year-old boys and girls.
The problem is, the real problem Star Wars has is the highest piece of quality Star Wars content. The best thing in Star Wars was Empire Strikes Back. And unfortunately, it just happens to be, for me, like an Oscar-level movie. It's a fantastic piece of cinema.
Yeah.
It's almost perfect, and the bar is too adult and it's too high.
Yeah,
you can't manage expectations. Not everything can come out and be the quality of Empire Strikes Back, unfortunately. And like you say, they just need to concentrate on the target demographic, really.
Yeah.
It's shown to make enormous amounts of money for them, because if you just look at I can't remember what the famous cartoon is that all of the millennials are absolutely obsessed with.
Oh, Clone Wars.
Clone Wars, yeah, exactly. That definitely not marketed at anyone that watched that original trilogy, but it's incredibly well loved and made an enormous amount of money and effectively kind of kept the franchise alive. I think you have to accept that a lot of was the franchise going to be purchased for that much money if that hadn't happened, if it hadn't kept things ticking over, you know. And there's a whole generation of people that love Clone Wars, and they love, Lego Star Wars, they love collecting all those Legos and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's never ever been aimed at us. So I think we just have to.
Yeah. I have never, weirdly, I've watched a bit of the Clone Wars. I've never watched the whole of it. I keep meaning
No,
to.
me neither. No.
Just meaning to get the time. But talking about bringing franchises, one of the other things I watched the Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. And I actually think they got the tone right on that.
I hope so, because that first movie is so good. It's so much fun.
Yeah. To me, that is the way. If you're going to bring back a legacy character, that was the way to do it. And I think they did a very good job of it. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Was it up there as way with the first film? No. But was it a fun film? And did they do it justice? I think they did pretty well, because there's been a couple of other things that they've done recently that just didn't hit right. But it's an obsession with bringing back these old characters. So I think.
I know. I feel bad for the old actors, personally. I know they get a good payday, but half the time they look like they don't want to be there.
Yeah. What do you want, little man? Sorry, my little dog is just coughing his little thing up. Oh, good God. What are you doing down there? Please don't bark at me. What are you doing, hey? What are you doing? You settle down, boy. Sorry, little ring off. The other things I've watched this month has been, main things, been working on The Man in the High Castle again, as I keep going back to, which is a series that I should love, but I think it looks wonderful, and I just struggle with it. I'm about halfway through series 2 now, which is further than I've ever got on it. But there's nothing wrong with it, but for some reason I struggle a wee bit with it.
I think some shows can be like that, right? Some shows can take a while to get their hooks in you, whereas other shows get their hooks in straight away. Like I remember watching The Wire after that. The first episode wrapped up, and I just wanted to watch every season back to back. But then, arguably one of my favorite series ever was the Watchmen TV show they released, and that does not get its hooks in you initially. You have to give it a few episodes. You have to give it time.
I really loved that version of the Watchmen they did, I must admit. And
so good, unbelievable.
I enjoyed it, and I could hear Alan Moore spinning. That's all watching it.
But Alan Moore did that to anything.
I know, he hates everything, doesn't he?
He hates everything. So don't worry about Alan Moore. Alan Moore. Just leave him alone.
But yeah, The Wire, I've never got into The Wire either, but I loved, there was a series in the back end of the, would it been 90s, called Homicide: Life on the Street. Another police one, which was set in, where was it set? Detroit. And basically some of the characters that ended up in Special Victims Unit. Do you remember there was a character in there called Munch?
I know the show. I've never watched.
Yeah, he was from
regularly watched.
But that was really, really, at the time, that was quite brutal, and that's based on a bunch of books. What else did I watch as well? Welcome to Paradox, I've discovered. And this was from 1998. It's a Canadian anthology science fiction thing. And it's set in this town called Betaville, which I think is a nod to Jean-Luc Godard's Alphaville. And it's basically an anthology series. And it was broadcast on the Sci-Fi Channel before it became Sci-Fi. So it became Sci-Fi, didn't it? About 2006, whatever it was. And it's around on DVD. There's copies of it on YouTube. Somebody's uploaded kindly, though they're all out of order, I discovered. But they've got some really good stories there. They've got some James Tiptree, which is why I ended up finding it. The Girl Who Was Plugged In. They've got one of Alan E. Foster's Montezuma book stories. Like Alan E. Foster, I'll show you this book. It's called the Montezuma Strip. Anyway, and this book. We're back. I've had a little cut there because I had to take a dog to the toilet. It's real life here. It's real life here. But yes, I was talking before I got rudely interrupted about Montezuma Strip.
Yes.
And that was one of the stories from this are in Welcome to Paradox. And Alan E. Foster, he did publish, I think there's 4 of them in here. 4 stories, and he published them in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction under a name James Lawson, to see what a pseudonym would do, see if anybody would recognise him, basically, because he'd never done it before. And some people picked up, some people didn't. But this is set on a strip of land across the Mexican-American border, where there's like got high technology, low poverty, and it's almost like a bunch of detective stories. I've not really read one of these so far, and it's just a really interesting concept. He did this collection, and this was 1995, I think, and then he did a novel in 2002, which I like to. So I'm really quite intrigued by this, and I do love the cover on this. If anybody looks at that, but these are
it's really nice and really good colours.
And I'm a fan of Alan Dean Foster's tie-in novels as well. I think he's sometimes underrated as a writer because of that. But if you look at his novelizations, he is so good at it. He's got it down to a T. Because you can see other experienced writers take on novelizations and they struggle. So yes, that was Welcome to Paradox I watched, and I think that's one of basically all end of my things that I've watched. I think
I watched. I went back to The Winter King after the ITVX app debacle because they started showing it on normal terrestrial TV. So I recorded it on there, and I have no issues with it anymore. It was just, I watched it on ITVX. I don't know why it's such a bad app, but I haven't finished it. I've only watched like 6 episodes, but it is good so far. And I
really enjoyed it. I've got the book, and I've keep saying I'm going to read it, and I never get around to it. And I really do want to read it. But I think the TV series, I think for me as somebody who's not read the book, I think it's pretty decent. I don't think it's up there with The Last Kingdom. I don't think
that's another level. Yeah, I love that.
That's just the absolute another level.
Yeah,
and it's not up there, but it is really. I think it's pretty well done, and the main people and the settings, and it works well. But yeah, ITVX is as a streaming service is just a nightmare.
Awful. It's absolutely awful.
It's like they had a film. Rosie, my wife, wanted to watch. Good Night, Mr. Tom. She wanted to watch on there, and it's got something like ridiculous amount of adverts in it. It's like 6 or 7 advert breaks in a 2-hour film. It's like this is just stupid.
It's too much.
It's more than you'd ever have if it was broadcast terrestrial. But
yeah. The other thing I watched was Agatha All Along. About 6 episodes into that as well. And it's different. That's one thing I would say about Marvel. They're trying lots of different things, and it works. It's a little. It does pander a little too much. It's a little bit overproduced, like a lot of those shows are. But it works. It works well enough. Like so many actors on that show are, doing good work. So it's fine. My kids are certainly loving it, and I'm looking forward to the new Captain America movie. So
yeah, that's how it goes. It's got Harrison Ford in, so I watch Harrison Ford in him being gruff and grumping and as the president. Because they've got coming up, I think in March, is they're doing Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, I love the Daredevil stuff.
And apparently, rating-wise, it's got an 18 in the UK, which is highest of any show ever. So is it going to be as brutal as The Punisher was?
Well, that had a 15 rating, right, in the UK?
Yeah, I never worked out how it got away with a 15 rating, The Punisher. No. I watched it and thought, God, this is brutal.
I thought you could put a 15 rating on anything now, right?
Yeah, I don't understand ratings. Some of the stuff I watch, and I think, is this really? Some of the stuff I watch that's 12, I'm trying to work out how they get away with it.
I know.
But it's, but I must admit, I remember when I first watched The Walking Dead. I watched it it was on FX, was it? Channel originally? It doesn't exist anymore in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, it did run on FX for a while. I can't remember whenever it first streamed the first season, but I remember 2 or 3 seasons in. It was
on one of these channels.
First,
but then they broadcast the first season on Channel 5, which, if you're not in the UK, is a terrestrial channel. And I watched it on Channel 5, and I thought, how did they get away with broadcasting this on terrestrial TV?
Yeah.
But in some ways, I think The Walking Dead almost changed what was acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, the boundaries have been pushed a lot in a lot of cases. Long gone are the days when the likes of Jaws and Gremlins will have a 15 rating. and B for adults. These are like kids franchises basically now.
I know.
I think modern kids are brought up on some.
I saw
very
Jaws
violent
was
stuff.
on a came right around the cinema. It was on a re-release thing somewhere in the early 80s, and I remember going to see it by myself. So I would have been about 13, 14, and I remember being sat in the cinema by myself because I used to go to the cinema myself. And I remember being sat there, and there's a bit where shark jumps out of the water, and I'd never seen the film before. I may have seen it on TV, I don't know, but the bit when the shark, and I remember screaming because it made me jump so much.
Such a great monster movie.
But it's still a great film. But even if you
can't pick any fault in it, it's almost perfect.
Yeah, there's bits of it. You think, the shark doesn't look brilliant at this point when he's lying on top of the boat, but you just go with it, and it's just it's worth it for.
The movie's like 50 years old. What do you want?
Yeah, it's worth it. But the fact that it wasn't a very good shark worked in their favour because they didn't show much of it, which actually gained more tension. But it's worth watching just for Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss talk.
Yeah, unbelievable. Such good acting in that movie.
Yeah. But so I'm quite looking forward to Born Again. I hope that they don't bugger it up.
We'll see.
But we'll see. Like
they're just throwing stuff against the wall at this point, so we'll just see what sticks.
Yeah, because I never did watch. Because I know. Did you ever watch She-Hulk? Because I never watched that.
I did. Yeah. Okay. To be fair, Matt Murdock's been popping up in movies and end credits and TV shows all over the place, so they're keeping the character in there and relevant. So,
but it's weird how Daredevil suddenly become one of the most popular characters out there. Because I remember he was one of the sort of comics I used to always really like him as a when I used to read the comics, but I never really got into the fact that I never really followed him. I would just like pick up the odd issue every now and then and read it. But it's weird how they picked on him but I like the fact they've kept it in as like the street level. They've kept it all as mafia-ish.
Yeah, load of crime. Yeah, I mean because he's another one of those Marvel Batman, isn't he? So it only works really at street level, just like Batman did. Don't get me wrong, the Justice League stuff was fine, but it was always very much kind of Batman's not. Is he really in the Justice League, or is he actually just trying to take all of the superheroes down? So
he's always, and in some ways, the superhero characters I like are always the ones that end up being sort of more street level rather than the ones taking over worlds. If you're going sort of superhero things, like I was never big into Superman, but because it was all, I don't know, it always felt, I know he had some vulnerabilities, but it always just felt a bit sort of he can do anything type thing. But have you seen the James Gunn release of the trailer of it, the new Superman film?
No, I haven't.
Because he's got Crypto Superdog in there, which is always quite. I really like the trailer. I must admit, it makes me want to watch the film. But I watched it and then I suddenly thought, why do they have to have CGI snow? Isn't there enough snow in this world that they can actually go and see some snow?
No one wants to be cold.
Yeah. And then why does every dog that appears on screen now have to be a CGI dog? There's enough well-trained dogs out there.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. There's a lot of bad CGI these days as well, like a lot of cheap. Yeah, I understand. Like good CGI takes over a year to produce. It takes longer. It takes far longer than the actual movie takes to make, and it's very expensive. But either do it well or just don't do it, please.
The problem is that they don't give the CGI artists enough time to do it properly sometimes.
No,
and that is the thing is, I don't think any of them go out to do bad CGI. It's just they've not given enough time. If you want to see bad CGI, have you ever seen Sound of Thunder?
No, don't think so.
Which is based on the Ray Bradbury short story, where they go back in time to hunt dinosaurs, and they always hunt a dinosaur that's just about to die, so that they don't change the future. And then somebody steps off there and steps on the battle line and changes the future. Well, the film sort of vaguely follows that. it's weirdly it's a Peter Weir film, and Peter Weir's a good director, but they ran out of money halfway through it, and the CGI in it, they couldn't afford the CGI, and then they had people doing it in China for free, the CGI on it and stuff like this, and it is really, really bad CGI. But I actually sat and watched the film and thought, there is a good film trying to escape here.
Yeah.
But there was all these, that was it. The production company went bankrupt halfway through, and then they were trying to finish it. They couldn't afford any CGI, so they got people voluntarily doing it in different places around the world for free, and they got a film out.
I've got to recommend something. You've probably seen it actually, but it's a documentary. If you want crazy production drama, there's a documentary on the making of The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh, I've not seen that.
Oh yeah, it's really, really good. It's hilarious what happens. So like they changed director basically, but he goes completely off the reservation,
didn't they?
Yeah. He literally refuses to leave location, gets himself involved in as one of the extras without the production team or new director knowing, and just starts messing with the movie. And he's still in all the shots and all the scenes. It's hilarious. It's really, really good.
I've never seen that version of The Island of Dr. Moreau, I must admit.
Oh, I love it. I think it's a very fun movie. Very fun movie. But what they were actually making is absolutely bonkers.
I love things like that when you hear about them making them, because the 1979 version of The Island of Dr. Moreau with Michael York in it, which is a pretty decent film, and it's reasonably close to the book as well.
It's probably closer to the book than this movie.
Yeah,
not that it's really far from. It's not really far from the book in this movie, but they changed a lot.
Yeah,
and they went massively over budget. And it had like Val Kilmer, Marlon Brando in it, and you got
two people there
that are taking over the whole project as well.
You got two people there that are notoriously difficult to work with. Apparently, Marlon Brando, apparently he was a bit of a nightmare later in his life, and Val Kilmer, as people have said, is not the easiest person to work with. They're saying that I do like his version of The Saint, and I'm probably the only person who does.
I haven't seen it since it came out.
I know it's very dated now, because the reason it's very dated is because the phone he's using to get all the data, he's got this weird Nokia flippy keyboarding thing that he gets all this weird stuff on there. But I actually quite like it. And the novelization, who was the novelization done by? I can't remember now. I saw it and thought, I need to get hold of that. It's done by somebody quite well known.
There's a novelization for everything.
There is novelization for everything.
There's a novelization of Johnny Mnemonic, the Keanu Reeves movie that no one watched from like 1995.
There's a novelization of it.
Yes.
Say that, there's a novelization of Total Recall, which I've got, which is originally obviously from the short story We Can Remember It For Your Wholesale, and they got Piers Anthony to do the novelization. The novelization actually it's pretty good, actually. It's pretty decent.
Yeah, of course it is.
But famously, they wanted to do a novelization of Blade Runner, but Philip K. Dick, who was still alive at the time, wouldn't let them. So they tried to get him to do a novelization of his own book that he'd made a film of. It was like, okay. So basically, they just repackaged the book and put a film cover on it.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird when they do that. You get a book and then you suddenly do a weird. But they've got a load of James Bond ones, especially from the 70s. I think The Spy Who Loved Me and I think Diamonds Are Forever, there's actually novelizations for. And I read them. I think I read them many, many years ago. They're quite hard to find now. But yeah, you got the Ian Fleming original ones, but let's make a novelization of it.
Yeah, a lot of Bond stuff's difficult to get though. I think it's just the way that the estate was handled after Fleming. I think it's a lot of that stuff's very expensive and hard to track.
Yeah, they're talking about weird franchises. They just have to do a TV series of that as well, which I just think is not how you should be doing Bond. But
yeah, don't get me started. I think they missed the trick massively. I think Idris Elba should have been the next Bond. They should have rocked that on
excellent
straight away. He should have been put in straight away after Daniel Craig, but drag the hills.
Yeah, but no, yeah, he would have been so good at it.
Yeah, it's the natural. There is no one with the screen presence that could pull it off. You know, another British actor. There isn't anyone out there at the moment. And there's really good British actors out there at the moment, but no one that could pull off that particular, the ego and the magnetism and the screen presence. Being big enough to be intimidating on screen and everything. It's Idris Elba's. He's getting on, you cast him now, or you got to leave it basically.
Yeah, otherwise you end up in a situation that when they were getting older and older, and you had like Roger Moore was quite old.
Yeah, Roger
still playing Bond.
Roger Moore was only like a couple of years, younger than Connery was when he did Diamonds Are Forever when he started on the franchise.
Yeah,
they started about like 49 years old. And poor Roger Moore's there dyeing his hair, having to do stunt scenes and stuff. The poor guy is, he's pushing 50 in movie one, and he's in his 60s by the time they pull him off. So, poor Roger Moore.
He was a star. He was a star in it, though. Yeah. He played the arrogant so well.
He did.
Yeah. So, let's go down some YouTube rabbit holes, I think.
Yeah, let's go down a YouTube rabbit hole.
I watched a video the other day, which actually is quite interesting, but rated by a booktuber called Emma Skies, who hasn't got many videos up. And I think she was a Twitch streamer and then a sort of TikTok-y person that sort of came across because she's done about 3 videos and got more watchers than I've ever had. I think that's what it is. And what was quite interesting, by the fact that she did the thing that bugs me about YouTubers. Why do you do this? They have a microphone, like a desk microphone, and they hold it in front of themselves like this.
Yeah.
And it bugs the hell out of me because for starters, it distorts the sound a bit because you're moving it around, sort of gets the object around the microphone, and it just annoys me. But that's just me with one of the foible things. But she was talking about going through exclusive editions. And there's a really interesting discussion about all these weird editions, especially people like Sarah J. Maas and that. They have different editions in different shops. And they have
insane, isn't it?
The only thing that differs it is like a short bit about one of the characters in it and things like this. And there's all these different editions. And they're trying to rake in as much money as possible. And it's just quite an interesting little video. And I said I'll put it in the links below for it if anybody's interested in it. It goes on about 20 minutes, and there was something I don't know who wrote it, Onyx or Oryx book that's just come out. I think it's in the sort of Sarah J. Maas sort of field sort of area.
Yeah.
And that one's had more sort of editions, and there's been some uproar about the editions because different people have the editions in that sort of marketplace.
It's that kind of romantasy / dark academia area of the business is by far the biggest selling, in publishing currently. And they've found, like you're saying, they're preying on FOMO. They're going through social media and preying on FOMO to the extent where, these books, they're going online for like £200 a piece. It's very expensive. If you wanted every edition of a first edition, you're forking out maybe £500 on release day or something. It's it's getting crazy. I'm glad I'm not wrapped up in it.
Yeah, I smarted at paying £10 for that.
Yeah, £10.
Because it was quite rare, but there's a Facebook group that I don't really go on there very often that I belong to, which is people selling books. And there's so many people come up. I've got this lucrated edition, this other edition of this book. It's always the same type of books, and they're always trying to sell them for like quite a lot of money, sort of. And I'm just thinking, I suppose if you collect them, that's fine. If you're willing to pay that and you collect them, but it's just seems to be so many editions out, and it's, as you said, it's like a marketing ploy that they've got. And I think it's because there's a lot of money has gone out of books, and the publishing industry are just trying to find other ways to rake in the money. Because if you've got the audience of something like Sarah J. Maas, I've never read any of her books. The likelihood is I probably won't, because it's not the sort of thing that really appeals to me. But she's obviously doing something right because she's got a good market. She's got some big fans. I think she's sold some stuff on to be adapted. So there's a huge market to there, and they do all these editions and people buy them. So they've got something.
Exactly. So, more power to them. I can never actually come out and, decry any of this kind of, the fans or the practices, because I won't stop buying editions of Lord of the Rings. So
I've got that problem. I've also
can't be throwing stones in glass houses. So
I've got 4 or 5 versions now of The Man in the High Castle.
I know, but there's so many good versions.
All in paper.
There's so many beautiful copies.
I've just got another version. Okay,
Yeah.
how many versions of this one book do I want? But yeah, I think it's 4 or
Exactly.
5 versions of that. And Lord of the Rings, yes, I got numerous copies of that. But it's normally the old paperback ones I really like, all the ones that I really, really like. But then you see some of these big, beautiful editions, and I just think, oh, I need to buy one of those at some point.
Yeah, I've spent way too much money on Lord of the
Rings. What else? Let's have a quick look there. My list over this side there. Criminali's Wasted Weekend. As much as I have issues with I have ethical issues with
reading garbage. Yeah,
reading garbage with the term garbage on books, which I know is done jokingly, but I don't think you should classify it. But he's doing the Wasted Weekend again, which I know a lot of people join in and enjoy. And there's normally a lot of really good books that everybody talks about then when they do that. Also, there's Homes is Where the Heart Is. Lots of more home stuff, which is like Mystery and Mayhem and Book Club of Elvis and other bibliophile reads. And I guess a few other people that normally do those sort of things there. Those are the main eventy things that I've seen flying around. I don't know whether I missed anything else. And yeah, the only other videos I've watched really have been sort of non-book tubey. One about fossils, which I don't know if you've seen. Dan Olsen does a channel called Folding Ideas.
I have seen an episode of his before, but
He's got a great one on Bashki's Lord of the Rings film, the animated one. Ralph Bashki's. It's a great, and it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours long. It's well worth your time though. The research
not as long as the cartoon.
I like that version.
Yeah, it's the only version there was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember. I can remember the first time I watched it. I hired it on VHS.
Yeah,
and I watched it and I thought, but it stopped halfway through the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
What happens now?
I think Prime has the rights to it, and they charge you per viewing now.
Yeah. But yeah, he had a video on fossil hunters. It's about an hour and a half long. But it's well worth your time if anybody's into that sort of thing. He's always an interesting guy, and he always does interesting videos, and they're always really well done. But if you don't know into the fossils, go and watch on the Lord of the Rings one, because there's a story behind that, and they talk about all the rotoscoping when they literally had people in the in a car park in Italy dressed in armor, pretending to be orcs and fighting, and they filmed it and then they rotoscoped over the top of it, which is
it makes sense when you look at the animation style.
Yeah,
it does seem too fluid for the time, doesn't it? So
yeah, well, there's bits when they go into all the rotoscoping, but
yeah.
And I remember reading an interview somewhere with one of the people that had actually been one of the extras in one of the battle scenes and said, "We all look fantastic. I don't know why they didn't film a live version."
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I've watched, really. I don't know about you.
I've noticed the kind of awards season cropping up. So Red Fury Books always used to do like a Oscars type show, giving awards to authors and stuff like that each year. And I noticed that Mike's book reviews has done one this year as well. And that's an interesting concept. Way too much production. I've never ever tried to do anything like that for sure. But more power to them, dressing up in tuxedos and all that. But I suppose if someone's going to do it. Also, I saw Cliff from Cliff's Dark Gems. He had the author Chad Lutsky on his channel, which I think is really, really good, because that's an indie author that doesn't get any props really. So he did a live stream of him.
Yeah.
That was really, really long, because he came on over an hour before it was meant to start by accident, because he didn't work out the time differences between South Africa and North America. But there you go. And yeah, just catching up with some YouTubers I haven't seen in a while. I went to a couple of channels, and they haven't. The reason I haven't seen them in a while is because they haven't, produced any content in 3 months, 10 months, and at least 3 YouTubers I went to watch have just disappeared off the face of the earth. And I watched a few videos by the Ginger Bibliophile because I hadn't seen her stuff in a while. For some reason, with YouTube, like I will not be suggested videos by people I'm subscribed to for a while. For no apparent reason. I don't know why. They just decide to, offer up some people's videos and not others. But
it never makes any sense. It's and I refuse to put notifications on for everybody, as everybody always tells you to, because
I don't do that, unfortunately, either. Sorry, to the BookTube community, but
if not,
I turn notifications off on my phone for everything. I don't have it for emails. I don't have it for text messages. I don't have it at all. If you need me, call me. Old fashioned,
yeah, actually, I went down. I started watching Alice and the Bookshelf. Because all her videos.
Yeah, sorry, I did mean to say, because Homes is where the heart is. She would always usually take up. She's one of the people involved. Yeah, Alice, R.I.P. Still watch her stuff. I'm watching her stuff in the order which it released, so starting from her first video.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I had a couple of her videos suggested to me I think last week, and I started watching them, and I went down the rabbit hole and watched about 3 or 4 of her videos, and they're all well worth watching still.
It's so good, yeah.
And it's just it was just so sad, but if you ever get a chance to watch it, it's still worth watching. The content's still up there, and it's all really, really good. And actually, I forgot that she did a load of home stuff, so I might have to have a look back at some of that as well.
Yeah, she's one of the first people to really ever start watching my channel, and it's I had to check a video I'd done previously to make sure I hadn't already spoke about a book, and seeing a comment on there, one of my first videos, back when it had less than 100 subscribers, was just really crazy to see that again. Yeah, it's very, very sad.
So, what have you got coming up this month?
I'm going to do another book haul because I didn't do one for like 3 months, and I was just sitting on like 40 books that I hadn't shown off. So I'm going to do another book haul, and I've got a couple of reviews. I'm a bit behind on reviews, so I'll probably put a couple of reviews up. But I don't know, later in the spring, I might have to drop my release schedule a little lower, maybe 6 videos a month instead of 9 or something, because I'm going to struggle to. I'm spending too much time reading Malazan to the point where I can't really focus on other books. So I need to just get through to like August, September when I finish Book of the Fallen, because the word counts are insane. It's always 400,000 words every time. I just don't have time to make lots of videos, really.
Because I failed on some of the ones I was meant to make for January because I just got carried away with reading ahead for the Filmtastic February, which was a bit annoying. So some of those I'm probably try and take over till March, but we'll see how we go. I've got coming out tomorrow, which I filmed yesterday, the myth, the legend that is Sean Standfast sent me a bunch of books, lots of science fiction reference books. So I've got a little sort of unboxing thing of those, which is, did I schedule it for today or tomorrow? Scheduled it for tomorrow on Monday. So when this comes out, people should already be up there. And I've got a first proper one of Filmtastic February's coming out later today, which is just sort of a list of what I'll be doing. And then on Wednesday, hopefully I will finish the Warriors one, which is turning into a bit of a production. Annoying.
It always does with you.
Yeah, it depends. Certain ones I do like to do a bit of production, and I just like playing around with stuff.
Yeah.
And because if you'll notice, this is me being really pedantic, all my Fantastic February ones will be in CinemaScope. They are 239 1 aspect ratio. All of them are. I am planning to do that, and all of them should be color graded to a Technicolor type thing as well.
Lovely.
And that is me being ridiculously obsessive and wanting them to look a bit different.
Everything looks like it was filmed in the 70s. I love it.
It's just like, I don't know what Rosie's going, what are you doing? You're making this harder.
There's something about that style that is timeless, though.
Yeah.
It gives it's like a feeling attached to it. But maybe it's just if you have fond memories of stuff that's filmed like that, maybe. I don't know, but there is something about the style.
But what I discovered yesterday is if you upload a 239:1 aspect ratio video to YouTube, is you cannot put end cards on them.
Oh, I've had an issue with broken end cards before. I wondered if it's to do with aspect ratios.
It doesn't like that at all.
Yeah,
You can
it's
can
like
put
the options grayed out, right?
Yes.
It's just yeah. I've seen that before, and I wondered like if I'd accidentally done something with my format.
It's the aspect ratio on it. It will allow you to put the little taggy things that you can put up there on there, because I put one of those at the end. But
I actually don't know how to do that. I've never put anything up there.
It's got
know how to do it.
But it'll let you do those, but it won't let you put end cards on them because of the it doesn't like the aspect ratio on it. But oh well, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. I'm not going to change what I'm going to do for Filmtastic. And I keep looking at the word February. Okay, so I've written it so many times in the past week.
Yeah, I know. You start to think like, have I just spelt that wrong? But I know how to spell February.
It's the first R that gets
me. You see it too often. Yeah, you just see it too often. Yeah.
The first R. Every time I look at it, I think, should there really be an R there?
I always think of like Iron Brew when I see the word February, like sort of like the brew in the middle there.
I just keep looking at it thinking, should there be an R there?
Yeah.
And I've even gone and checked it a couple of times, thinking, am I going mad here? Have I written February
that's when
wrong
you've
everywhere?
you've been writing it too many times, but you have to go and check out the spell February.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, and I've got a bunch of other stuff coming out for the month. I've got, what am I doing? Stuff on Raffles. I've got this lovely Oxford edition of Raffles, which I actually prefer. I know it's blasphemy. I prefer the Oxford editions to the Penguin ones normally.
I've got to say, there's something about the way they're presented. I think the Oxford ones, because
they're just really nice, and
I think the Penguin stuff probably has the edge if you were going to be very, objective about it. But if you're being subjective, there's some really nice Oxford classics. Like I really like the whoever's in charge of the presentation. I can't remember what they call it. The person that does the covers and stuff, but they've got good people in charge of that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
The quality is a bit shocking at times, like the actual quality of the book. They just fall apart like instantly, but they look nice.
Yeah, I'm doing some stuff on John Borman as well. If I can get that on there. So I'll have to talk about Zardos and Mankinis at some point.
You love talking about Zardos.
I know Zardos is a great film. Yes, it is. It is totally. I do not know what John Borman was thinking. He basically went. I think he was allowed to make whatever he wanted, and he chose to do Zardos.
And then he did it.
And he did it, and that is the most. And he actually wrote a novelization of it as well, weirdly, which because I probably couldn't get any other lunatic to write it.
Yeah, because no one else would do it.
It's one. If you watch it, and there's like a plethora of like British, really top-notch British actors in it as well, and how he talked Sean Connery into it, I've got no idea.
I'll tell you what, he looks very manly though.
Yeah, but it's just like you watch it and you think you were allowed to make, because he was something, after Deliverance and Excalibur and all these big films, and he was allowed to do whatever he wanted, and he chose to do Zardos.
It is very different to what he made previously.
Yeah. It's just like, but then but everybody remembers it.
Maybe he just fell in love after making Excalibur, of having that creative license and just being able to, because that's a very creative movie. You've got to say, production on that. Production on that is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, it is absolutely beautiful, and I love the fight between Lancelot and Arthur when they're getting more and more tired.
Yeah,
lifting these big swords in their armor.
That's how it was to fight in those armor, in those pieces. You weren't very mobile. You got tired extremely quickly, and it usually was whoever could just be asked to win at the end. So,
but I just love that, and it just looks beautiful. You get all the lens flare and off the armor and stuff like that, and the armor at the beginning is just like beautifully clean, and then when Gawain goes off, it gets more and more dirty, and it's just a beautiful looking film, and it's just a great film. Probably the best.
Sorry, have you seen the movie The Last Duel?
Yes.
Unbelievable movie.
We watched.
Might have been the best movie that was released that year. Was it 2 years ago? Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's like, it's a weird film, but it's like all these different perspectives. It's like, I said, and
Beautifully shot. Love it.
it's beautifully shot, and the duel looks fantastic, and it's all the discussion for the different points of view because it's all
That's
shot.
what's so great about it. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like they actually don't really change the script. It's just
No.
the tone. It's like the shot, the camera shot, the body language, and the tone of voice. Pretty much the only things that change. And they managed to give 3 different stories by just changing that effectively. The script's almost identical in all 3 perspectives, but it just goes to show how people
even the way
perceive.
there's a bit in the bedchamber with the guy, and he says exactly the same words, but he says it in a different way in each version.
Unbelievable work from a directing standpoint. The best directing I've seen in years. It was so well directed.
But that's why Ridley Scott
very
is probably
underrated. Very underrated movie.
But that's why Ridley Scott is probably my favorite director.
Oh, he is my favorite director. Like,
even on a bad day,
something about it, yeah.
Even his bad films are just
entertaining.
Going to look stunning. Yeah. Have you seen Gladiator 2?
I haven't, but
no.
And the only reason I haven't is because my wife has decided that she really wants to watch it with me, because I would have seen it at the cinema at least twice. But I'm like a coiled spring.
It's like a sequel I didn't really know I wanted to watch, but I'm not sure whether I did want to watch it.
Yeah, I didn't want a sequel to it either. But
no, it's
I'll watch it. I mean, he's got Denzel out for it, so I do love me some Denzel Washington.
Yeah, he's good. He's
such a great actor.
Yeah,
he's a little bit Al Pacino-esque in that Denzel is just Denzel in every movie. Just like Al Pacino is, but they're still great actors. Their line delivery is always on point. They've always very good professionals. Young Al Pacino, unbelievable.
I know Denzel Washington. The only films he's ever done the sequels to are the Equalizer films. And the last one of the Equalizer films is so brutal.
I haven't seen the most recent one.
No,
I saw the first 2. I thought they were very good.
The third one is really good, and it's really, really brutal, violence-wise. I remember Man on Fire, which is the film he did with Tony Scott, which
the issue with
Tony Scott's cutting does my head in.
The issue with that is it was extremely fresh when it came out. Everyone has done that style now. Everyone's
and
made
it gives me a headache. It's like I'm watching it thinking, why you keep cutting like that? It's doing it.
Yeah. At the time, though, not many people were cutting like that, and not many people were filming in that style. And it became the norm for action movies after that movie came out.
I think Tony Scott was incredibly underrated as a director. Everybody seems to forget that he did the first Top Gun film. It's like just forget what he did.
I prefer that to the new Top Gun film as well. I know it's going to be controversial, but
I quite enjoyed the new Top Gun film. I think
I enjoyed it too, but
sequel.
The original is better.
They're actually
even better shot, in my opinion, as well.
I can't remember. There's some YouTube video out by somebody who's a CGI person, and it's about when they say Tom Cruise keep going on, there's no CGI, and that we've done this real, and he goes through it, and he said he did about 3 videos on CGI and saying, about people saying they hate CGI, and he's saying, well, a lot of CGI you don't see, and the reason a lot of CGI is bad is because people aren't given time. But he did this thing on no CGI, and you had Tom Cruise was saying it constantly, absolutely constantly about the new Top Gun film, and all the planes, as much as they are filmed, but there's CGI over them to skin them because they're the wrong plane.
I think the issue is Tom Cruise isn't part of the post-production process. So during production, he's not seeing any green screens, and he's told we're going to do it in real planes and we're going to film real planes. So he's thinking, great, no CGI, no green screen. We're going to be in real planes. We're going to film real planes. And then afterwards, after the first edit, they go to post-production, and they've CGI'd a bunch of stuff over the top. I don't know if he's even aware at that point. They're not going to put into his contract. By the way, if we want to add CGI in post production, Tom Cruise, we'll make sure we notify you.
The other interesting one was the Barbie movie. Never seen it. No real interest in seeing it.
No, I haven't seen it.
But on the DVD, they keep going on about there's all this practical stuff in the Barbie and what have you. And in the extras on the Blu-ray, they've done like some behind-the-scenes stuff, and they've, instead of showing a green screen at some point, they've CGI'd something in it so people don't know that was on a green screen. And they've done that on the extras. It's like, why are you hiding? Why
you've gone to such lengths
to hide the fact that you use CGI? It's really, really weird. But yeah, that was a bit of a rabbit hole to go down there on stuff. The other thing, I'll go back to what I'm doing for the rest of the month. I've got loads of stuff on some short stories that I'm going to do that were films. I've got going to do Super Toys All Summer Long, Brian Aldiss, one of the ones I'm doing. The short story that they used for They Live, which I can't remember who wrote it now, which is actually really good, which has not got the bubblegum line in it.
Everyone loves the bubblegum.
Yeah, and a couple of others I'm probably going to do as well in the film fantastic ones. But as I said, I've got 2 videos coming out there, and one coming out probably Wednesday. I think it was for my Warriors one, which I'm quite excited about. Weirdly, you get excited about releasing a video. Sorry,
I'm excited for it too.
I don't know why I'm excited about it. It's just I've enjoyed doing it. I think it's just because I really enjoyed the book. I think that's probably the reason.
Yeah.
So you got anything specific coming out for the month, or just
only what I already said, really?
Yeah. I can't think of anything else now. Anything else for anybody to say?
I think we've gone fairly long. I think even with the edit, we'll be at like 1:10. So.
Oh yeah, which is good for us. So I will say goodbye to everybody, and thank you for watching, and thank you for still watching after a year. Which I cannot believe.
If anyone's watched all the episodes, put it in the comments, because you're crazy.
Yeah, I will say goodbye at the moment, and from us, and we will be back probably in 3 or 4 weeks, or maybe a bit longer, depending on our schedules.
This is a journey into sound.